Hello and welcome to the Sports Show, the only sports show where we get everything right the first time and we don't go through things twice.
Never.
I definitely didn't forget to put the Dolphins on my tier list.
He did not forget.
Um,
He did. He forgot.
I did
Go
forget.
ahead.
So it doesn't come out as organically now. We're planning to have a Twitter. I was going to put math into my power rankings and just do everything very scientifically. The long and short of it is I haven't. I call it an algorithm. It's really just basic arithmetic. But you get a point for winning a game, whether it's a good team against a bad team or a bad team against a good team. A win is a win. There's no such thing as a free win in the NFL. And then I take into account the strength of schedule of the team as we see them now in Week 9 and the point differential. So if you're, for example, the Eagles beating the Panthers by 2 points, that matters a lot less than, the Lions beating the Packers by 40 points. I'll go more into it on X, formerly known as Twitter, which I'm going to hopefully have set up before you guys hear this episode. But we are talking about power rankings today in this special Saturday episode. You guys, if you listen to us on Wednesday, know what our top 2 and bottom 3-ish teams were, just by the nature of how we went about it. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go through our power rankings, Nate and I, and then we're going to kind of compare them to Week 0, Week 1, Week 5, and then the most current power rankings as of Week 9. We're not going to go through all of it, but we're just going to talk about which teams fell, which teams, are not where we thought they were going to be, and kind of go through all of that. So with all that being said, for a second time, Nate, let's hear your power rankings. This is going to be your guys' first time.
Let's hear it. And yeah, we'll compare kind of, our teams, how our top 10s kind of stack up versus our bottom 5s and see if there's any outliers as well. But yes, for the second time, let's go with the power rankings on my end. So we'll go Ravens 1, Eagles 2, Chiefs 3, Bengals 4, Jaguars 5. That's my top 5. So we'll go Lions, Niners, Cowboys, Seahawks, Dolphins to round out the top 10. 11 through 15, we got Steelers, Chargers, Bills, Browns, and Saints. 16 through 20, we got Vikings, Texans, Commanders, Jets, and Falcons. 21 through 25, we got Raiders, Broncos at lucky 22, Titans, Buccaneers, and Colts. We got Rams at 26, Packers at 27. Then bottom 5, we got Bears, Patriots, Cardinals, Giants, Panthers. Before I turn it over to Jay, I'm hoping that he didn't forget 2 teams. So we'll see what he says.
Yeah.
What do we got?
I guess I could just quickly check it real fast. Duplicate values. Okay, go. No duplicates. Perfect.
Okay.
Also, I like that you give it in groups of 5, and then just randomly have Rams, Packers, and then the last 5.
Bottom 5, it's just they're kind of just kind of just no man's land teams. So whatever.
All right.
Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
All right, so I'm gonna have you muted on Discord because when I talk for long periods of time, sometimes I hear an echo. So if you respond to my power ranking, no one's gonna hear it. So I apologize.
Say anything. Nope, it's all you.
All right, so top 5, I've got Eagles, Ravens, Chiefs, Jaguars, Lions. Then we've got the Bengals, the Seahawks, the 49ers, the Dolphins, the Cowboys. After that, we got the Bills, Steelers, Chargers, Browns, Rams, Saints, Texans, Colts, Commanders, Falcons, Jets, Vikings. Bottom 10, starting with the Broncos, the Raiders, the Buccaneers, the Titans, the Patriots, the Packers, the Bears, the Cardinals, the Panthers, and the Giants. I had a mini heart attack because when I said Packers, I heard in my head Panthers. And as I was reading down the list and I saw Panthers a second, I was like, oh God, I fucked up again. Yeah, I unmuted you. I have Broncos at 23. I think, I think the top 5 is the most interesting because it is a very top heavy league this year. I think we mentioned in one of our episodes that this year has had the most blowouts out of any other season. I don't know if that's still true or not, but it definitely feels like the middle of the pack is very muddied, right? We've got we've got teams like the Vikings and the Broncos who are, despite starting 1-4, on the outside looking in. They're only one game away from taking that seventh playoff spot. I mean, shit, we've got the Panthers, the Giants, and the Cardinals all sitting at one pretty win. I think the Giants have 2 wins, don't they? So, yeah, so you have like these one or two team win teams who are still not like completely out of the playoffs. And honestly, with the exception of I think our our bottom three, Cardinals, Panthers, and Giants, which I believe are your bottom three as well. Yeah. Bears, Packers, and then Patriots. Yeah. I told you our top six or our bottom six is gonna be the same. Um but even like I think there's, with the exception of the Panthers and the Cardinals, I think there's a very I'm not gonna say realistic, but it's not too far fetched to see a scenario where one of these 2-win teams makes it to the playoffs. Because outside of, the juggernauts of the Eagles, the Chiefs, the Ravens, it's you're not that far away from making that seventh playoff spot, and we've talked about that before. Um, so for me, the top five is very, very compelling to talk about, and 6 through 10 is also pretty compelling. I'd say from like 11 to 20, that's very muddied. I think any team can be anywhere from 11th to 20th that I've ranked there. Like if you said my 20th best team should be ranked 11th, I don't think I would argue too much against that, right? I did. It's a screenshot because I did it in Excel. They're 15th. But again, like I I'm not married to that them being that high. Yeah, Bengals at 6. Um, no, I can see an argument for swapping the Lions from 5 to 6 and putting the Bengals up there, considering that the Lions have and will continue to have one of the easiest schedules in the NFL. Um, and the Bengals are on an upswing. For me, a team that's on the upswing is different from a team actually being on the upswing, if that makes sense. So like Bengals have had the really good game against the Bills, and they've had a few other good games like intermittently throughout the season, in an otherwise kind of disappointing season. like, yeah, they're 5-3, and they're only 2 games behind taking the division, but some of their wins were really scrappy. Like their win against the Rams and their win against the Seahawks. But they've had an impressive game against the 49ers. But of course, you know, Trent Williams is hurt. The 49ers have not looked like a good team. They've had an impressive win against the Bills, but again, the Bills have not looked like a very good team for the past 4 weeks now, ever since they went against the Jaguars. I think our top 13 are actually the same. Because I've got Bills, Steelers, Chargers. You got Steelers, Steelers, Chargers, Bills. And I talked about this on Wednesday's episode, so I don't want to. It feels weird saying Wednesday's episode. Today's Wednesday. The episode aired like 14 hours ago. But it's for like we talked about on the Wednesday episode. For me, the reason why the Giants are the worst team in the NFL, even though the Panthers, I think, are worse on over almost every metric, is because the Panthers are a broken team. You look at the week 0 power ranking, and the Panthers. Oh wow, the Panthers were, People had more faith in the Panthers than I thought they would. They were 25th, which is a lot higher than I thought. Week 0, so going into the season. Um, so my problem with the Panthers, or the Panthers, are kind of screwed, and there's a very easy argument to be made that they are the worst team in the NFL right now because they don't have any wide receivers, they don't have a running back, they don't have a defense, and their quarterback is a quarterback who relies on timing, kind of like, you know, um, I guess kind of like an Aaron Rodgers, right? But he doesn't have the talent to back up that timing. And as we mentioned a couple of weeks ago, the first time the 49ers lost with Brock Purdy, when you have a wide receiver who's not going to be where you expect him to be, and that's what all your throws are going to be like, you're obviously going to look a lot worse. If you can't just air the ball out 40 or 50 yards and have a Tyreek Hill catch it, you're kind of hosed when you don't have anything there to help you. So there's an argument to be made that the Panthers are the worst team. For me, the Giants are the worst team because they had every opportunity to fix their team. They looked pretty good last year, and they did it. And their best player is Saquon Barkley. And again, like we mentioned on Wednesday, your best player cannot be a traditional running back if you have nothing else to relieve pressure from that running back. And you even see, like, the Giants were predicted to be 19th, week 0. Not the greatest, but certainly not 2 wins, and certainly not, the worst point differential in the NFL. And this is considering the Broncos losing by 50 points against the Dolphins. Oh, Vikings. Easy. Well, for one, we've already seen what Josh Dobbs can do. Arizona doesn't have a lot of great tools for Josh Dobbs. Right now he has Addison, and he's going to get Jefferson back at some point. And I don't remember what their tight end's name is. Halverson? Hawkinson. Yeah, TJ Hawkinson. And, a post-prime Dalvin Cook. He's... What? Oh, that's crazy. All right. No, because the Jets use Brees. That's crazy. Yeah, I completely forgot that Dalvin Cook wasn't on the Vikings. So ignore the running back, right? He's got a very good number 1 receiver, a very good tight end, and apparently a really good number 2 receiver, because I feel like I didn't know who Addison was until like 3 weeks ago. So, that's pretty respectable. So yeah, I think easily it's the not the Rams, sorry. Easily it's the Vikings. I have them ranked pretty low, but I have them ranked pretty low, but I think they might actually have a tough schedule now that I think about it. I haven't looked at their schedule in a while. Yeah, dude, I was thinking about the logistics for that, and it gives me so much anxiety. It's like a 4-hour podcast. Um, I can see the Saints. I do have the Saints ranked higher on my list than the Vikings. I mean, I have the Jets, Falcons, Commanders, Colts, Texas, Saints, and Rams all ranked higher than the Vikings. Um, I I want to believe in the Rams, but Carson Wentz did not impress me too much last year on the Commanders. He impressed me okay on the Colts. Um, so we'll see. I think if you were looking for a budget replacement for Matt Stafford, Carson Wentz is probably about as good as you can get right now. And I'm actually kind of surprised that the Vikings didn't try going for Wentz, but I I also do think I like Dobbs better than Carson. Uh, I th- I think it's so. This is gonna be really weird and random, but I think it's because Derek Carr has a Tim Tebow effect. He's not like as blatant about his Christianity as Tebow was. Obviously, I don't think there's ever going to be an NFL player as blatant about their religion as him. Um, but if you watch a lot of his interviews and stuff, it's really clear that he has like a very strong faith, like a strong foundation in faith. Derek. Oh, are we talking about Carson Wentz? Oh, I thought we were talking about Derek Carr. I, I was gonna say the only thing I could think is yeah he has he has talked shit about his receivers. Um, yeah, no, I think so. I heard a story about Carson Wentz when he was on the Eagles and Nick Foles was doing really well. And it's Carson and the other guy on the Eagles who got put on IR. I don't remember. I don't know if you remember who that is. So anyways, it's him and this other guy, and they're like in the hospital, watching one of the games, and basically what happens, Carson Wentz said something like, "I hate that the team is winning without me," and the other guy said, "Hey, you can't say that. Like, whether or not you're playing, this is your team. You got to be happy for them winning the game." And Carson wasn't saying like, "Oh, I hope the Eagles lose," or like he was upset. He was just kind of like, he's a competitor, but he wanted to win games. Um, and he wasn't winning games. He was sitting in a hospital room, and the other guy revealed that, and he wasn't trying to throw Carson Wentz under the bus, but that's just kind of like how it ended up being. And a lot of people kind of turn on Carson Wentz from there, and I think a lot of his locker room issues came post concussion on the Eagles. So it might be an Antonio Brown kind of situation. But I have also heard that the Commanders locker room had zero issues with Carson Wentz. So it might have been just being on the Colts. My friend Matt, he's a huge Colts fan. He talks about how Carson will always audible out of running plays whenever Jonathan Taylor seems like he's having a good game because he doesn't want to share the glory. I don't know how true that is, but yeah. Yeah, so I've got a few, but I think Raiders are on the cusp, and it's hard to say that because they just came off a great game. Um, O'Connell looks like he's played 1.5 games, and he's looked good in those 1.5 games. Um, but they've got a new head coach. They've got a new general manager. The team is in turmoil right now, right? No one's job is safe. There were still talks that Devontae Adams wants to leave, although that might change now that uh, Jimmy, I'm willing to both overthrow you and underthrow you, Garoppolo is no longer starting. That might change for Devontae. Um, Obviously the Broncos, because in the same month they have both looked like the worst team in the NFL and the best team in the NFL. and then um and then the Commanders, I just feel like the Commanders, especially now that they've lost Chase Young, are kind of an underwhelming team. But I would have to say, gun to my head, if you told me to pick a team, it would have to be the Jets. Um their defense is good and their defense is great, but it's not an elite defense. It's not the Legion of Boom. It's not the Iron Curtain. It is just a pretty good defense that has shown that they cannot withstand high pressure situations. Okay. Yeah, I don't see anyone in the bottom 6 climbing out of it. Maybe the Patriots, because they show signs of life, and maybe the Packers, because it's hard to say. The Packers are kind of a weird team right now, because it's hard for me. It's hard to definitively say that Jordan Love is a bad quarterback when his wide receivers also have the most amount of drops out of anyone in the NFL, seemingly. I don't have numbers to back that up. I would confidently say, well, actually, I guess out of the bottom 6, the team that I think that could climb out is the Cardinals, right? Once they get Kyler Murray back. But here's a fun stat. I don't think Kyler has won a game in December in his entire NFL career. Because he's been starting for 3 years now. And I don't think he has ever won any games in December, including um I can't remember if it was last. I think it was last year. It might have been 2 years ago. The Cardinals literally only needed one win to clinch a playoff spot, and they lost like their last 5 games. Does that sound familiar to you? That was, yeah, the Broncos, Josh McDaniels, the first year after going like they were like 8-2, and they just need to win one more game to make it to the playoffs. I digress. Let's take a look at these at week 0 power rankings. I'm not going to read the whole thing out. For me, standouts, New York at number 6. That makes sense. They thought Aaron Rodgers was going to be playing. What was kind of surprising to me is that Miami was ranked 10th. They are 9 and 10 on both of our lists respectively. But I thought going into the season that Miami was going to be really good because Tua played out of his mind last year. And the link between him and Tyreek was only going to get better this year after, a year of Tyreek being on the team. I had Miami ranked a lot higher going into the season. And then I actually had San Francisco going into the season ranked way lower than 5th because I wanted to like Brock Purdy, but I didn't think he was going to do good this year because now that they have tape on him, I thought that he was just going to be kind of bad. And I was pleasantly surprised for the first half of the season. Now they're playing about as well as I thought. And then when you look at the bottom teams, Arizona, because Kyler Murray was known to be out for the beginning of the season. Houston, which is really surprising because CJ Stroud is looking like Rookie of the Year. Outside of that, there's not really too many surprises going into the season. I don't think Cleveland was ranked pretty low, but I don't think people realize how good Cleveland's defense is. Their offense is still trash, but their defense is a historic defense, I think. And I don't think that there's really going to be that much difference going into the season outside of the Jets. So you look at, rank 1 or rank 1 week 1. San Francisco, Philadelphia, Dallas, KC, Detroit. I think I would have put Miami over Detroit, but it's only one game. It's kind of hard to tell. There's literally nothing here that's too surprising. The Jets being at 12th and Buffalo being at 8th is very surprising to me, now that I think about it. Because at that point, the Jets had beaten the Bills, and that's the only game that they've had. So it's funny that they still put the Bills over the Jets, but nothing too surprising going through the power rankings. Even like week 5, you can kind of see Jacksonville climbing up. You can see the Bengals climbing upwards throughout the weeks. Honestly, the Bengals are probably the biggest surprise. Like, they're now at where we thought that they would be going into the season. But yeah, the Bengals were predicted to be 4th going into the week. And it's only because of the last 2 weeks that they've finally broken the top 10. They're sitting at 6 looking into the top 5. And honestly, the Bengals might be better than Detroit, might be better than Jacksonville. So let's look at our top 6 teams. That didn't go at all what I thought, but I guess that kind of goes to show if you compare like week 5 to now, is pretty different because, San Fran was still sitting up top. Buffalo just started their descent. Jacksonville was just starting their climb. Since he was still not looking great. So like when you look at week 5 to now, like week 0, week 5, and then today, that's kind of an interesting jump because a lot of teams I think looked inflated, looked a lot better than they actually ended up being. Dallas was like top 5 for the longest time, and they're at number 10 for me and number 8 for you. Which I guess maybe people are just getting better at recognizing what good NFL teams look like, but I'm not entirely sure how preseason predictions ends up going in terms of like how accurately they're able to predict teams, especially when they have established players on the roster. So, nobody knew how CJ Stroud was going to do. Nobody knew how Bryce Young or Anthony Richardson were going to do. And all of them, I think, performed differently than what people were expecting them to. Maybe not Anthony, maybe not the Colts, because I think people were pretty high up on him just because of how physically talented he was. And that's pretty much what we saw on the Colts, is he's physically talented but just needs a little bit more game sense. But what I wanted to talk about to end this podcast, and I think this is going to be a longer topic. It's kind of like what we talked about with, can the bottom 6 team break out? Is there a team in your top 6, because our top 6 teams are the same? Is there a team in your top 6 that you think might fall out of the top 10? Yeah, I definitely think not the Lions, the 49ers are going to win their division. The Seahawks, for as good as they've looked, are pretty underwhelming team in terms of scoring and in terms of their defensive scoring. They've only scored 171 points and have had 175 points scored against them. The 49ers are an explosive team. With that being said, I don't think in terms of power ranking I could put the 49ers up that high, because I think we're now seeing the ceiling of Brock Purdy. Last year and the first half of this year, there were talks of him being the next Tom Brady. This very under the radar quarterback who is really good and can win games and is a consistent quarterback. And I think with Brady, we kind of saw his season or his peak was almost having the perfect season, almost having a 16-0 season and winning the Super Bowl. And I think now we're seeing Brock Purdy's ceiling, and it's not 16-0. It is, can I do well with an okay offensive line or with just a good but not great offensive line? The 49ers with Trent Williams has a top 3 offensive line, I think. And when you have a top 3 O-line, like we've had this discussion plenty of times about Jalen Hurts. You give any quarterback in the NFL the line that Jalen Hurts has, and they're probably going to win you 8 or 9 games. You put Chad Kelly there. What are some of the random quarterbacks I've given you? Kurt Benkert, JT, I don't remember his name now. Chase Daniels. But you know what I'm saying, right? So with that being said, I don't think the 49ers for me are going to go into the top 10 until Brock Purdy is able to show top 5, yeah. Until Brock Purdy is able to show that he is able to perform at a higher level than what he's been playing now, when he doesn't have all of the tools available to him. And again, losing your top 3 players on the offensive side of the ball, it's going to be hard for any quarterback to recover from. But that's kind of the difference between a great quarterback and everyone else. And I think to be a top 5, you have to be a great quarterback. And right now, I'm not sure if Brock Purdy is that guy. And I'm not saying that the 49ers should get rid of Brock Purdy. I'm just saying that he needs to, I think this is a great wake-up call for him. They have to get rid of Randall Gregory. He's the curse. In terms of top 6 teams, I think can fall out. Again, it's a team that is going to make it to the playoffs. It's a team that's probably going to make it to the conference game. But I'm going to say the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs offensively are kind of on a knife's edge. And for as dominant as their win record is, their games haven't looked very good. I talk a lot about the Eagles looking kind of like sketchy, the Lions looking kind of sketchy in their wins. The Chiefs the Chiefs lost to the Broncos. They almost lost to the Broncos the first time. They almost threw away a 21-0 lead. They came very close to losing against the Jets and the Vikings, and both of those, I believe, were at home. They might have been away games, actually. But they were a field goal away from beating the Jets. In my opinion, a missed or a bad call, but whatever. I'm not going to die on that hill. And then the Vikings, who I think at that point hadn't won. Okay, so they were 1-4 heading into that game. We've talked before that Patrick Mahomes is tied for second for most interceptions. But I don't know if that's still true after week 9. But I think the Chiefs have a pretty tough schedule going into the second half of the season. They've got the Eagles in a couple of weeks. They've got the Bills, which may or may not be a tough game. They've got the Bengals, the Chargers, I'm gonna throw the Patriots in there just because the Patriots seem to be doing really well defensively against high octane teams, with the exception of the Cowboys game. The Cowboys game and the game right after the Cowboys. I forget who that was. The Cowboys and the Saints game were not great showings, but I think the Chiefs, if any of these teams were to look the weakest going into the playoffs, I think it would be the Chiefs. Yeah. So just just to wrap this up, who do you think are gonna be the division leaders? Let's just go down the list. AFC East. Yeah. I think I'm gonna switch over to the Dolphins until the Bills show that they're capable of playing football again. I'm gonna have to go Dolphins. We've got the AFC West next, and I think we both agree it's gonna be the Chiefs. We've got the AFC North. I'm gonna go Bengals. They're on an upswing. They're only 2 games away. Um, all right, we've got the AFC South. We've got to go Jaguars. They've got the longest win streak right now in the NFL at 5 wins, which takes us to the NFC. We've got the Eagles winning the NFC East, I think. Then we got the NFC West. I still think it's going to be the 49ers. NFC North, this is kind of a tough one now, but I'm going to go with the Lions. The Vikings are on a 4-game winning streak, and I guess most of it were away. Then we got the NFC South. Yeah, it hurts me to say the Saints. I want it to be the Buccaneers. I want to be a Baker believer, which I think is one of the worst losing streaks. The Cardinals have lost 6. I think it's the only one that's worse. Yeah. And so not really a lot of controversy. I think literally it's just the AFC North. The whole division is 5-3. Whoa. Can you still hear me? All right. I just knocked over my sound card. And then who do you think is gonna be the number 1 seed for each conference? I'm gonna go with Eagles. I'm gonna throw a wrench. I think the Jaguars are gonna win get the number 1 seed. They're looking they're looking hot. And I like Trevor Lawrence. So is yeah means more wins. This was a surprisingly agreeable podcast. On all fronts. I thought we were gonna argue a lot more. Well, you had a team up high that I had pretty low. It was the what team? Oh, it was this? No, it's not the Saints. The Vikings, which is kind of ironic. Because I think I believe more in the Vikings than you do. They're looking good. I have to see more from Josh Dobbs though before I put them up higher. Um, yeah, I can't believe we talked for 50 minutes just saying, yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, I agree with you. So, telling you how it is. All right, we're gonna see you guys. Um, maybe on Monday, for sure. Check us out on Wednesday. Hopefully, we'll have Twitter up. This should be going up on Spotify and on YouTube. One of these days, I'll find motivation for us to actually do real videos. But in the meantime, see you next week.